It was so great to have you joining us today. It was exactly 1 week ago that we did our public launch of To Be Bold, the campaign for Stonehill College. And the largest component of that campaign is scholarships. So we're really happy to have our panelists with us today. I'm going to introduce them one by one, and I think you'll find this session really enjoyable. Not listening to me, but listening to our students and to our scholarship benefactors. And as Marie Kelly mentioned just a moment ago, if you have any questions, you can put them into the chat and we will answer the questions as we go along. There's a series of questions that I have for Kathy and for Fran and for Megan and for Kate. So I'd like to begin by introducing first Kathy Miller, who is a graduate of the class of 1979, married to Jamie Miller, her husband, from class of 1980. Both have been wonderful alums and benefactors of the college. Kathy also serves on our board of trustees and is a member of the campaign committee. So welcome, Kathy.
Thank you.
Fran Dillon. I don't think he needs an introduction, but I had the opportunity. I still work with Fran. Fran still works at Stonehill. I think some people forget that, but he does work at Stonehill, and I worked so closely with Fran for so many years, and I can tell you from personal experience how important scholarships mean to Fran. And his life's work was to really create as many scholarships as he could at Stonehill College to benefit students like Megan and Kate. And I'm pleased to report that we currently have 270 scholarships at Stonehill right now. And we award 550 scholarships, and that's just from what we have in these endowed scholarships. The value since 1978, I think when we had our first endowed scholarships, we're up over $75 million in endowed scholarships right now, which is fantastic. And when we're completed with To Be Bold, we expect that number to be much higher. So Fran also has a scholarship. It's the Linda and Francis Dillon Scholarship at Stonehill. So welcome, Fran.
Thank you. Great to be here.
The next person I'd like to introduce is Kate McCarthy from the class of 21. Kate just graduated last Saturday, so we're so excited for you, Kate, to be able to walk across that stage and join our alumni ranks. And Kate comes to us from Wrentham, Massachusetts, and she is off to Boston College Law School. She's been accepted, which is great, so we're excited. Welcome, Kate. Kate is a recipient of the Linda and Fran Dillon Scholarship. And finally, we have Megan Nyhan, who is class of 24 from Concord, New Hampshire. She just finished her first year at Stonehill. Were you virtual or were you in person, Megan?
I was in person all year.
Great. So how was your first year?
It was kind of crazy, but I had a great time. It was nothing like I imagined my first year of college being like, but I wouldn't have changed anything about it. It was a good year.
That's great to hear. Well, welcome, Megan. We appreciate you being here. So I just wanted to start out, and I guess I'll start with Kathy, Kathy, what was your motivation to establish a scholarship at Stonehill, the Miller Maroney Scholarship with you and your husband?
Well, I think there is a lot of answers to that. So at the risk of going on and on and on, to keep it brief, both my husband and I were recipients of financial assistance when we started at Stonehill a long, long time ago. And I'm really going a long way back. Fran, you can back me up on this, but there was a time when there was a sibling discount at Stonehill. And my older sister was there, and she's class of 77, and 25% off for me. And my parents said, "This is where you're going to go to school." I really like to say it's the best decision I never made. I got there and just knew I was in exactly the right place. It was resonating with me when Megan and I spoke earlier. She said she felt the same way, and I think a lot of alumni feel that way. So that was the beginning. My husband had a brief and meaningful conversation with Father McCarthy, who we all knew and loved, and when he was in some financial distress his freshman year at Stonehill, and Father Mac found him honestly, truly $400. And it was the difference between staying and going. So small kindness is long remembered. So we as time went on, we thought this would be a good way to for us to focus our philanthropy as our ability to do so changed.
Thank you, Kathy. Fran, I'll ask the same question of you. You know, the Linda and Francis Dillon Scholarship, establishing that, and you could talk about that for a moment.
Well, to be honest, unlike Kathy and Jamie, who established the scholarship in their name, Linda and I didn't come up with this idea. It was actually the Alumni Council that established it because Linda and I have been here since dirt. So, but once it was established, and I think it was about 15 years ago, Linda and I make contributions to it every year because it's that important to us. Linda didn't go to Stonehill, but if you asked her, where did she graduate? Her first instinct would say Stonehill because she worked here for 42 or 43 years. I came in 1966, and like Kathy, it looked so unaffordable, even though, believe it or not, 1966, a full year's tuition was $1,000. But $1,000 was something that was way out of reach for my family. I was one of five. You know, I was from the projects. My father repaired typewriters. The kids probably don't know what a typewriter is. My mother was a clerk. So we had, you know, I was going to go to either Boston State or Northeastern, but Stonehill was my reach financially, and somebody came up with a scholarship. I have no idea who, but from that day, when I got that letter saying you have a scholarship, you know, scholarships have meant so much to me. And the opportunity to raise money for scholarships over these past 40 some odd years, as Doug, you said, it's been the most enjoyable thing for me to do.
And I can witness, you know, working with Fran, I've been able to see the number of people he would meet with during his time, lots of benefactors, trustees, important people, but he always had time for any student who would ever come to his office and say, I just can't get this financial thing to work out. I can't figure this out. I need help. And Fran always took the time to advocate for those students and to help them out. So I do know how important scholarships are to you, and that was so great. For us students, Kate, can you talk a little bit about what scholarships meant to you at Stonehill and how that helped you complete your educational journey at the college?
Yeah, well, so college is obviously really, really expensive. So I chose to commute, but even then, like I still really couldn't, afford Stonehill. I've taken out loans the entire time. I actually went, to a different school my first semester, which became too unaffordable, which is why I transferred to Stonehill because I could commute. But then over the years, especially this past year, with COVID hitting. So my family's in the restaurant industry, which was obviously super hard hit by COVID. So I'm a waitress. My mom was a waitress. My dad was a bartender. So there was a lot of like financial, stress, I guess, around the time of COVID. So this scholarship just meant so much, to me and my family to like take that burden off of our shoulders for sure.
And Megan, how about yourself? I'm sure, what does the scholarship, the Miller Maroney Scholarship, mean to you?
I mean, when I was applying to schools, I applied to very few because in my heart, I knew where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to Stonehill. But I mean, the decision was completely based on money. That was kind of what it was going to come down to. So when receiving the Miller Maroney Scholarship, it allowed for me to go to Stonehill. And especially in such a weird time last year when I committed to school in April of 2020, it was such a confusing time, and it allowed for me to do that in such a hard time, and it worked perfectly.
That's really great. And can you just follow up a little bit? You were talking about your experience as a first year student here at the college. You were in person, but there were lots of restrictions. But you said it was enjoyable. Can you just talk a little bit about what you expected and what it's been about so far?
Sure. So I lived on campus the whole year, which was amazing. It worked out perfectly. But it was weird because, you know, you couldn't go in other dorms. You couldn't have people in your room. For a while, you couldn't eat in the dining hall, but it was all things that's all I knew. So by the end of the year, when I was able to go and sit down and eat with my friends, it was just a glimpse into looking at what the next years are going to be like. But with that, I was also able to go to in-person classes, which makes a world of a difference because I mean, I find it very hard to learn online. It's hard to stay focused sometimes. But when I can go in person and sit in the classroom and learn from my professors in the classroom, it makes a world of a difference. And I'm so glad that I was able to be in person. I was really lucky.
That's great. And what are you looking forward to most next year? Obviously.
I'm really excited to have all my classes in person. I think would be awesome. And hopefully have some friends in my classes and just go to like all the games with my friends and go to the gym whenever I want and kind of have all the freedom.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
And Kate, can you tell us a little bit about your experience as a student at Stonehill? I think you were a criminal justice major, is that right?
Yeah, I was a criminal justice major, or criminology technically, and political science. But I added political science really, really late, like in the last year. I crammed it all into those 2 semesters. But yeah, so I was actually a transfer student. I transferred for the spring of 2018. And I lived on campus my first year, and I actually ended up commuting after that just to, you know, save money. And then this past year, I've gone fully remote. Instead of, you know, driving all the way to campus 5 days a week, it just made more sense for me. But I personally actually loved the remote experience. I thought it was great, you know, just to be able to like hop out of bed and come right to my computer was great. But yeah, no, it was a good time for sure.
And do you have a memorable class or a professor that you had at Stonehill that you really, or did something sort of spark in you? Did you always want to go to law school, or was that just something that kind of happened as a Stonehill student?
Well, I actually decided to go to law school after I did an internship. After I graduated high school
Okay.
and my freshman year of college, I worked in a law firm in Walpole, Massachusetts. And that's kind of when I decided that I wanted to go to law school. But in terms of my favorite classes at Stonehill, I think my overall favorite one was race, class, and gender in the criminal justice system, which is taught by Professor Rocheleau. Her classes and all of the classes that I took with Professor Kelly are, you know, those are my favorite.
That's great. And Kate, one more question for you. What advice would you have for Megan? Okay, so if you could be doing it all over again, right? Going into your sophomore year, what would you say to Megan about Stonehill and your experience and what to take advantage of and things like that?
I would say definitely join like clubs or like do club sports, things like that. Even like working on campus is a really good experience. I was a civic ambassador for the Martin Institute only for 1 semester, and then COVID hit. So that kind of put a wrench in things, but I really enjoyed that. And I wish that I could have continued to do that. And as a commuter student, it was pretty hard to join things on campus because a lot of the meeting times were times when I wouldn't be on campus. But since you are on campus, I would definitely suggest, you know, joining clubs or club sports, things like that.
That's great. Fran and Kathy, any vivid memories of meeting a student who was one of your scholarship recipients? Obviously, you've had a chance to meet Kate and Megan virtually, but you know, maybe is there some interaction that really stuck out with you about how a scholarship helped change one of your recipients' lives in a positive way? I'll start with you, Fran.
Well, yes, I'll tell you, and I know Kathy will agree with this. When we had the scholarship dinners, where the benefactors would get to sit with the recipients, it was always one of the most enjoyable events at Stonehill in a year. And I can remember Kathy coming with Jamie, Kathy coming with her sister, and if I'm not mistaken, Kathy, you came with your mother.
Oh,
To
yes.
those dinners at times, and
She was a big
you
donor
sit
too.
down. Yeah.
Well, she was a small
And,
donor, but big donors.
and you know, you get a chance to meet the students, and we always had our picture taken. Well, Linda has an album of 15 years of students and us with our recipients. But two quick things. One's kind of humorous. Well, actually, both are kind of humorous. In 2018, I met a student whose name was Megan DiMacedo.
Yeah.
And she was a senior at the time. And I said, by any chance, are you related to Ollie DiMacedo? She said, yes, he's my father. And I was in the admissions office for 10 years before I moved over to advancement. And the longest interview I ever had in my life on a Friday afternoon in the summer was Ollie DiMacedo in 1978. And he graduated in 1982, and a great guy. But to see that whole circle come back and to see his daughter come and graduate from Stonehill. But the real funny one was a student had received our scholarship, and I hadn't met him yet. The dinner was coming up in a few weeks, but there was an event in Donahue Hall put on by the political science department. And I think Doug and Marie know this story. And so as you entered the Donahue Hall, you picked up your name tag, and there was a line of people lined up to go to the event, mostly students, but some of the political science faculty members. I was invited because the speaker was from Harvard, the Kennedy School, and she was a Stonehill graduate. So I'm in line to get my name tag, and the fellow right in front of me looks down at the array of name tags and says, oh my God, Francis X. Dillon, I got his scholarship. I didn't know he was still alive. And the receptionist turned around and said, not only is he still alive, but he's standing right behind you. Well, I thought the guy was going to pass out before. That was a memorable meeting of the scholarship.
That is a memorable meeting. I do remember that, and I think I laughed for 2 days. Kathy, is there any memorable meetings you've had with any of your scholarship recipients? Or
Fran is such a hard act to follow.
Yeah, you're telling me. Continue, but that's all right.
I don't need to. I really am. I'm just so rooted in the present with this. So I'm going to have to say my most memorable was meeting Megan just recently. Just a couple days ago. That what's happening right now is just so exciting for the college, and it's so exciting for the students. And as a donor, it's really exciting to be able to participate in the future this way. And so I'm always happy. I agree, Fran, that scholarship dinner was always delightful. When we didn't live in the area, it was very difficult for us to get to sometimes. So I'm sorry to say we missed a lot of them, but when we were there, it was tremendously exciting. But I think my most fondest memory would be my conversation with Megan that we just had this week.
Yeah.
That's great. And Megan, do you have any goals you've set for yourself? You have your sophomore, junior, senior year ahead of you. Is there anything you really would like to do at Stonehill going forward?
Honestly, I'd love to do well in my classes and just really be present on campus. I'm part of the dance company. I know next year I also want to join the dance team. So really just be a part of that community and make more friends. And I'm excited to take more psychology classes because it's been hard having some online, and registering for classes is always tricky. So I'm excited to just learn more and go further into that department.
That's great. Thank you. So I'd like to take a moment. If anyone has any questions they would like to add to the chat room, or if you can raise your hand, we're happy to do that. We have one more session left. Or if you want to ask any questions of any of the Fran or Kathy or Megan or Kate, happy to take those. We have a video that we want to share with you. It was actually sent out for the scholarship, the annual benefactor student scholarship dinner that we were unable to have this year. I promise you we're having it next spring. If we all have to come in hazmat suits or something, if we have to do that, we're going to have the event. But let me share my screen, and I want to share this video with you. Please ignore the guy at the beginning. That's me. And I just realized I'm wearing the same purple tie in the video that I'm wearing today. So if anybody notices that, it is the same tie. But it is 3 or 4 of our scholarship recipients who are alums. They graduated a few years ago. And they talk about how important and how meaningful scholarships really meant to them to be able to come to Stonehill. So let me share my screen. And just give me a moment here. Hopefully you can hear that. It's hard to believe that we're missing the Student and Benefactor Scholarship Dinner again this year. It's one of my favorite nights of the year when we're able to have our students and benefactors together to share stories. You have my promise that once it's safe for us to be back together again, we will do so. We are more appreciative than ever before for your scholarship commitment. Please know that our students' lives are transformed and their opportunities are limitless because of you. This is the power of philanthropy. Please enjoy these virtual words of gratitude from some of our recent Stonehill grads. I hope their sentiments convey to you our ongoing appreciation for your support.
The fact that somebody who does not know me and just decides to help me with my education and to be who I am today, that's just amazing. And I'm so thankful for all the help that they've given.
Getting a generous scholarship from Stonehill really kind of made the decision much easier. Even though it was already an easy decision for me, it pushed me in the direction where this is just an opportunity that I couldn't pass up.
I believe in Stonehill and its ability to look at a student like me, even in today's world, and say that student deserves a chance to be something. And that's no amount of money can pay for what that experience can be for that student.
With the generous donors whom I haven't met before, they definitely have contributed more than they think they did on my education. It opened doors that I didn't even know can be reached.
I was offered the scholarship for all 4 years, and one of the best things that could have ever happened to me, because I'm one of the first in my out of my family to go to college and get a college degree. And that's something that, I mean, as an immigrant and from a family that don't really have much, it was a major catalyst in my life.
I'm really grateful for the generosity of the donors that help support us students, because there's a lot of people that need the scholarships in order to be here.
I really, really loved that opportunity, and where I was able to just grow as a scientist.
Without that scholarship, where would I be today? Definitely not where I am now.
I don't think I would have been able to achieve as much in such a fast time without their contribution to my education and to a lot of students' education here at Stonehill.
If you eliminate that barrier, what you're doing is you legitimately change someone's life by just trying to create a more just and compassionate world.
While we are not able to gather together, we are united in our commitment to transforming students' lives. We are hopeful that soon you can meet and visit with your scholarship recipients in person. Please continue to stay healthy and safe, and thank you. I hope you enjoyed that video. It really, each of those students who participated in that, their lives really have been changed, and they're very committed and dedicated to the college. But without the scholarships, it just never would have happened. So, Marie, I think we have a couple of questions. Would you like to pose?
Sure, yep, we do. We have a couple of questions. So the first question is for Kate. Kate, one of our participants asks, what will be one of your biggest takeaways from your time at Stonehill?
I think my biggest takeaway is just like learning what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. So going into college, 4 years ago, I thought I was a biology major. I thought I wanted to do that. And it wasn't really until I transferred to Stonehill that I, took criminology classes and decided that that's what I wanted to move forward doing. So I think my biggest takeaway is just finding, like a career path that I enjoy and like a topic that I, want to learn more about and I'm genuinely curious about, and like making that into my career.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And it does sound like you have some really exciting things on your horizon. So we're all very excited for you as you move ahead. So the next one is for Megan. Megan, you touched upon this a little bit when you were answering one of Doug's questions, but what do you look forward to most about experiencing life on campus post-pandemic? So is there something in particular that you just can't wait for that you haven't been able to do during this first year, because it was a bit of a different first year for our freshmen?
I would say as of now, I'm most excited for hopefully if the dance company is able to put on some real shows and my family could come, my friends, and have like a real show. And if we're able to go compete, that'd be awesome too. Just like the community of going to shows or going to my friends' sports games.
Great, thank you for sharing. And then a question for Fran and for Kathy. When you think about your scholarships that you created, what sort of legacy do you hope that that scholarship leads in the years ahead? Because 4-year scholarships, they last in perpetuity through our endowment. So what sort of legacy do you hope those scholarships create for this campus? And I think that could go to either one of you or both of you.
Kathy?
I think it's a really great question. I think the value of a scholarship, kind of in the broad sense, it is not, it of course is, and obviously is someone like, the students who are right in front of you, like Megan and like Kate. But I think what we keep in mind as donors, and I don't think I can speak for everyone, but I think many of us would feel this way, is in the broadest sense, we get to touch the future with these scholarships. We provide an avenue for the students to then choose where they will go. But we know that since they're starting out at Stonehill, and they will take the values and the mission of the college forward. We spoke a lot in the old days, Fran can back me up on this, of the making of a person. And as the mission has morphed into, it's still very much making of a person, but continuing on to, to lead and to think and to act with courage to create a more just and compassionate world. I think that's what we're all trying to accomplish as scholarship donors. We're trying to help our students get out into the world to do that. So we don't often get a chance to touch the future, and that's truly what I consider the value of on a broad scope of these scholarships.
If I could just add, Kathy's answer was brilliant, and I think that's so true. And that's why I think giving to a cause, I think it makes for a happy donor. This particular cause, it's not bricks and mortar, it's not a program, it's a real live person. And as Kate was saying, she discovered herself at Stonehill and she discovered her path. And you love to think that what little you did to make that possible through a scholarship is something that's so rewarding. But what I would add to what Kathy said is, what's most rewarding to me is to see students who have benefited from scholarships during the time at Stonehill turn into donors to help future generations of students. And every day we get a list from Doug's office of contributions made to the college. And I always go to the far right-hand column to see what people are giving to. And the most inspiring is to see a former student that might have gotten the Miller Maroney Scholarship giving to the Miller Maroney Scholarship. There's nothing more rewarding to see that than to see that happen.
That's great. Thank you, Kathy and Fran. Kathy, that is really nice. Touching the future, I think that's a great way to phrase it, because these scholarships, these endowed scholarships, go on in perpetuity, and they grow because we have them invested with our endowment. So every year, people continue to contribute to the scholarships, and they grow through earnings through the investments. And so we're helping more students with more funds every year, which is really great. There was a question that understanding there are a number of scholarships a donor can choose to donate to. Is it better for a donor to donate to one particular scholarship or spread their donation out across a few scholarships that interest them? Actually, either way is fine. If there is a particular scholarship you would like to support, that's great. You can also speak with us about establishing your own scholarship. We could do that. Some are considered an annual basis scholarship, so it's given out for 1 year or 2 or 3 or 4 years, or it can become an endowed scholarship, which is a more significant investment, but that could be named and that will go on forever. And we also have a lot of our donors who make what are called plan gifts, where they make plans in their estate to establish a scholarship. They lay out the directives as to how they would like that to help a Stonehill student. And then upon their passing, when the funds come to the college, that scholarship is established. So you can contribute to one of our 270 scholarships. You could create an annual scholarship or an endowed scholarship, and it all helps. So we do our very best to spend every dollar to help our students that we can. So that's a great question. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just add to what Doug said, because I do help manage the scholarship funds. One of the things we can do too, if there's a particular interest that you have or an area of study, if you don't have your own scholarship here and you want to contribute to some particular area, if you give us a call, we can take a look at what we have and let you know which funds support which types of program areas or interests. We have quite a few. They run the gamut from our basic scholarship restriction, which is academically qualified students with financial need, to areas of study or particular interests or involvements on campus. So we can certainly help you identify if one is in existence already that meets some of the criteria you seek to fund and make that happen. So with that, Doug,
I would say that the two students, Kate and Megan, have expressed their sincere gratitude for their scholarships. The video shows how those students that spoke so passionately talked about how it changed their lives. So, but the focus shouldn't just be on the gratitude of the students, because the satisfaction that people like Kathy and Jamie and Linda and myself and all those people who have established scholarships get in seeing the work that it does. Marie's office does a fabulous job of letting the scholarship donors know about who gets their scholarship, the value of the scholarships, the endowment growth. But I know Kathy, while she did miss some dinners, Kathy always came to Stonehill when she was here for board meetings and made it a point to find time to visit with the scholarship recipients to get to know them more personally. When I think of some of the larger scholarships we have, Bud Roach, who owned Roach Brothers Supermarkets, used to come down and meet every one of his scholarship recipients. Same thing with Tommy Shields. Larry and Teresa Salamino, when they set up a scholarship, there would be a luncheon here, and the donors would just go away thinking that whatever they gave, they got back so much more from seeing these students and creating their pathways and going forward. So it's not just to see the gratitude of the students, but the value in establishing a scholarship and the return it gives to you as a donor is just immense and can't be measured.
Fran, would you share the story that Bud Roach told you about the book, the 3-ring binder that he would keep?
Yes, I will. So for those of you who didn't know, Bud Roach grew up in Rosendale, Massachusetts, never graduated from high school, never mind college, was a meat cutter and established with his brother one of the most successful grocery chains in this area. His daughter, Patty, came to Stonehill and graduated around 70-something, I think, and died of a brain tumor about 5 years after she graduated from Stonehill. So Bud and his wife took a while to figure out what to do to recognize Patty's life. And he wanted to do something at Stonehill. And he established a scholarship fund. And actually, it started with him putting in the obituary, contributions can be made to the Stonehill Scholarship Fund. Well, when that money came in, we established a separate fund for Patty. And over the years, it grew tremendously. And I used to go see Bud up in Needham, where he lived. And we'd have coffee for 2 hours and just talk about everything under the sun. And I said to him one time, Bud, the scholarship for Patty, you talk about all the time. Tell me how important that is to you. And he said, wait here. And he went into his room and came back out with a 3-ring binder, an old-fashioned 3-ring paper binder. And he said, every time I get sad and depressed about Patty, I go in and I take out this binder. And over 30 years, at least 30 years, probably 40 years, he saved every single letter he received from the students. And he would read them. That's the story.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I want to thank everyone for participating today. It was great. I especially want to thank Kate and Megan and Fran and Kathy for being with us. I think this was a great lunch and learn as far as a virtual one. I'm with you, Megan. If we could do these in person, it would be so much better, but we'll get there. And the campaign, so it has gone public as I mentioned earlier. There is a website called tobebold.stonehill.edu. So please visit that website. There'll be more upcoming virtual lunch and learn events to learn about other aspects of the campaign. I think you'll find them really interesting. One is on the Meehan School of Business that Deb Salvucci will be hosting. One is on Bold Ideas, which is being hosted by our new Provost, Debrina Agbeniga, and Craig Kelly, who's the Associate Provost. And we have one in the Stonehill College Annual Fund that will be hosted by Lisa Richards with Ken Michael, who's the chair of the Stonehill College Fund. And we'll do additional events. And there'll also be smaller campaign events and some regional events. So please come to an event, learn about the campaign, learn about how it is making Stonehill great. This funding is really institution changing. And the more philanthropy that we have, it just makes us a better school and really helps us achieve all of our goals and dreams to make it an outstanding institution. So thank you for being with us today. We're always available for any questions afterwards. You can email us. You can just either reach out to the college or you can email us at tobebold@stonehill.edu. That's our email address, and we'll happily get back and answer any questions you have. So thanks for being with us. Have a great day. Enjoy the weather, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.